Welcome to the 150th episode of Wildcat Country. Eric Cohen, Shane Dale. Wow, we've been doing this for almost 3 years, Shane, 2.5 years, and we're at episode 150. So congratulations, and you've done more than that. But this reincarnation of Wildcat Country is what I'm referring to.
Yeah, well, we started way back in 2017. When, in fact, I remember we were doing it around the time when the Book Richardson news broke. With it was me and Jeff Dean, and you would sub in for either of us when we were absent a couple times, and I appreciate that. And then we went, let's say, dormant for a while, and then you and I brought it back in the middle of the pandemic. We thought, hey, no one's playing sports right now. Let's go ahead and restart this podcast, and it actually worked okay. Well, it worked okay. Worked okay. We got some alumni and some interesting stuff to talk about, and then sports came back sooner than we thought. And 150 episodes later, here we are.
We will go through Wildcat Country by the numbers in the third segment of the show. In the second segment, one of the spring game captains, Chris Gronkowski, is going to join us. Also, the founder of Ice Shaker. Go to iceshaker.com. Use promo code Wildcat Country with capital W, capital C to get $5 off. There's your quick plug. Or get them at fanatics.com. Chris is going to tell us about what's going on at the Ice Shaker, as well as what went down at the spring game. I'm sure there will be plenty of good stories with that. But Shane, let's get right into it. It's buy or sell, and it is presented by our friends at Ice Shaker.
Yeah, and by the way, Eric, this is the first time in 150 episodes that I've had a hot beverage. I got coffee in this Ice Shaker because I had to get up early. Yeah, I had to get up early for my real job this morning, so I've been chugging it. It keeps your drinks hot as well as it does cold. I still can't drink this. It's been about a half hour. It's still too hot for me. I may have to. Is that right? I'm gonna have to unscrew the lid. I'm gonna do that now. If I'm gonna be able to drink any of this during the podcast. Yeah. Not that you don't do a great job keeping me awake, Eric. But
I was gonna say, come on, I don't put you to sleep that early. No. All right, so we're recording this on Thursday night. We were hoping that there would be news with commitments and what have you beforehand. So here's the latest as it stands now. Things from what we've read on the internet tend to be trending in the wrong direction for Creighton transfer Ryan Nembhard, that he is, as of now, Gonzaga seems to be the favorite, as Arizona maybe not so much. Not official yet. Yeah. We don't know. By the time this gets out, Nembhard could end up choosing Arizona, but it's not a lock as had previously been reported on, websites and things like that.
Yeah.
And then we've got one of the top players in the country, Carter Bryant, who's making his decision next Wednesday night between Arizona and Louisville.
He's a 2024 guy, so he wouldn't play next season. It would be the year after that. But
correct. Yeah. So, Shane, buy or sell question number one. It's officially time to be concerned about Tommy Lloyd's recruiting prowess.
Here's yes and no. I'm buying that. I question his strategy. I think there are some coaches that just give me any great athlete who wants to come here, come play, instead of trying to be picky about it. Like Eric Musselman at Arkansas has reloaded like crazy. And that's just one example. Tommy Lloyd seems to, and he never admit to this, I'm sure he never talked about it publicly, but he seems to be a bit pickier because I think he thinks he's able to do so. And he wants only elite guys who fit a system to come to Arizona. Like if he wanted to fill Arizona's roster already, he could have done it. I'm sure there are plenty of 15-point a game guys and mid-majors who would love to come to Arizona. Some, high upside bench guys at Power 5 schools who would love to come to Arizona. But I think Tommy Lloyd has certain guys in mind, and Ryan Nembhard's obviously one of them. And if that doesn't work out, we're not late in the process yet. There's still a ton of guys in the transfer portal, but a lot of top guys who have come and gone. So it's interesting because it's completely different from high school recruiting, because that's like a marathon. This is a sprint. You got so many guys in the portal, and you got you need to go out there, and your coaches, your assistants need to go out there and try to get guys and schedule visits, and it's crazy. But I am a bit concerned about his strategy. I think he's going to be able to fill out the roster well, regardless of what Ryan Nembhard does. But certainly, like a lot of Wildcat fans, I've gone and watched his highlight tapes, and I gotten excited about it. And it looks like, and I'm just going to proceed as if he is going to go to Gonzaga at this point, because by the time you're listening, that decision may have been made. If that does happen, sure, that's disappointing, especially if that's been a big focus of Tommy Lloyd, and possibly at the expense of other guys he could have gotten in the meantime.
Yeah, and once again, I mean, maybe if Nembhard comes here, I will be very wrong, but I'm gonna buy this. I mean, I think there's major concern right now. The fact that this is a player that most national experts, once he put his name in the transfer portal, had Arizona landing Ryan Nembhard. They had the last visit. Gonzaga was at Gonzaga first, and then was at Arizona, later on. You shouldn't let him walk off campus without a commitment. It is a problem that Tommy can't close. If you lose this, one where people thought it was an open and shut case, that is a significant problem, Shane.
It's tough. Well, in this particular case, every situation is different. In this particular case, Ryan's brother played at Gonzaga, and Tommy Lloyd was his primary recruiter because he transferred from Florida to Gonzaga. I think Tommy Lloyd was the guy who brought him over. So it's, do you want to play for your brother's school or the guy who recruited your brother? And I think that's the struggle. It's like, I could picture him making that visit to Gonzaga, going around campus with his brother. It's like, oh, I used to go here all the time, and just like kind of picturing that. You kind of get a different feel. You go to Arizona, they don't really know the place as well. Tommy, do you know anything else? So I get it. So in that particular instance, I sort of understand it. But yeah, macro view, I think Tommy's going to do a good job rounding out the roster, but his strategy, it does concern me a little because this is the new era of the transfer portal, NIL deals. You got to act fast, and if you pass up some guys who want to play for you, you do it at your own expense sometimes.
It's concerning. I guess we'll wait and see, and we'll be able to break this down. We'll do our next podcast after we see what happens with the Bryant commitment next week. So I'm going to ask kind of question number 2 here, Shane. The next week or so, once we see what happens with Nembhard, Bryant, it kind of will determine the course of Tommy Lloyd's future at Arizona. Would you buy that statement or sell it?
I'm going to sell. I think that's a bit simplistic. It would definitely be a 1-2 blow, 1-2 punch if Nembhard doesn't come and Bryant doesn't come. With that said, 2024 guys who aren't going to play for a year and a half, I take it with a grain of salt because they could always change their minds. They could always decide to go play pro ball overseas, whatever. So it would be significant, I think, in terms of symbolism more than anything else. Like Arizona's still an elite destination, and they can still recruit top guys. But I don't know if it's a make or break moment. But I do think that if they lose Nembhard and Bryant 1 week after the next, that's definitely in terms of fan morale, that's definitely a huge blow.
I think I'm going to buy this one as well. Maybe I'm overreacting, and you guys can criticize me down the road if I am. But yeah, if you lose a guy, a top recruit, top 10 recruit to Louisville, who won like 5 games last year. Shane, there is no excuse for that. Which you would think that Arizona, a number 2 seed in the tournament, who was a 1 seed last year, and you're going to lose a top recruit to Louisville, who stunk and couldn't beat teams that I've never heard of before?
Well, look, if this guy, Carter Bryant, if he was intent on going to the most high-profile school, he'd choose Kentucky or Duke or North Carolina. So there's a reason why he's looking for the best fit for him, and I'm sure he's looking for some NIL money too. Let's be real about it. But if he was looking just to play for the best school on the planet, Arizona might be up there, but it wouldn't be at the very top. So I understand what you're saying, and Arizona loses out on guys
from California. Shane.
I know, and it's inexplicable sometimes how these things happen. They Arizona lost out on. I'm trying to remember he plays in the NBA now, and I can't think of his name. The guy who went to Stanford instead of Arizona, Zaire Williams.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So Stanford over Arizona, like Mike Montgomery's not there anymore. So that was a bit of a blow, but it happens sometimes. Sometimes guys just find schools they think are better.
What is the plan? What is the plan? Like, you're not hearing Tommy get like blue chip recruits. That was one thing that Sean Miller was really good at. Miller was able to bring in, when he missed on guys, he was able to get other guys to come in. What's Tommy Lloyd's like high school recruiting strategy? It's all Europe. And the problem with the European guys, while talented, they're soft by nature. And Arizona got out-physicaled by an Ivy League team in the tournament. And you can't argue that.
I don't know if they're – I think that's, again, a bit of an oversimplification that they're soft. I think it takes them a little while to get up to speed talent-wise. But I think you're just using Tubelis as an example. I think that's a bit simplistic. With that said, I would like to see them go a little bit heavier on North American players. And with a transfer portal, you have a chance to rebuild right away after you lose a guy like Tubelis, after you lose a guy like Kurt Kriisa. And Tommy Lloyd's got to take advantage of that. I can't imagine it's because no one wants to come to Arizona, because I'm sure that's not the case. But maybe in the future, maybe the lesson here, the hard lesson will be he's got to be a little less picky. And I don't know if he's going to embrace that philosophy or not going forward.
But Shane, the guys that we got last year were Courtney Ramey, who's okay, and a guy from Campbell University in Henderson who was okay. I mean, he brought in Vasar from Europe, who was, I mean, none of the guys he brought in last year from Europe were worth a darn, unfortunately.
Yeah, not their first year anyway. Yeah,
no,
and the guys who have been for him so far were Sean Miller's guys.
I mean, Boswell was a hit.
Yep.
Umar Balo was a hit.
Yep.
Adama Ball was not a hit. But I think it is fair at this point, if every Arizona fan questions Tommy's recruiting, whether you agree with us or not, you have to wonder, especially if you can't get Nemhard and you lose Bryant. Now, if you get 1 out of 2, okay, I'll soften up on that.
Yeah. To summarize it, Eric, if you want to be concerned, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. And I understand why. I'm not panicking yet. There's a long way to go. I know it's a sprint, but there's still a lot of great guys in the transfer portal. So we'll see what happens. Let's see how this roster shakes out.
All right, let's talk a little football before we have Chris Gronkowski on. Number 3, it's fair to call Arizona's spring game attendance this year, which is about 25K, a success, being that it's up significantly in the Jetfish era. And here's why I say that. So is it a success? When you look at it relative to other schools, big schools, 25K is nothing. But for what it was with Kevin Sumlin, which was like 2,000 people, you're talking 12 and a half times that. So how do you view this? Yeah. Is it a success, or are you buying a success or selling that?
Easy buy. It's a success. It's relative to the school, like you said, and how many games in the last several years did Arizona not even get 23 some odd thousand people to show up? The attendance might have been announced as higher, but you look at the stands, it was probably less than that. So I think that was big. And that's why I've said, Eric, I think while the win at UCLA last year was probably Arizona's biggest in terms of recruiting and national attention, that win over ASU, in my opinion, was the most important in terms of fan engagement, re-engagement, really. I guarantee you, and I'm confident in saying this because there's no way to disprove it. I guarantee you that Arizona would have cracked 20,000 fans at the spring game if they had not reclaimed the Territorial Cup. That's one game every year that even casual fans remember and know the score and remind their friends and coworkers who went to the other school who won that last game. So, and Jed gets it. He gets the rivalry based on some of his tweets after the baseball game we're going to talk about, and then the back to normal tweet and the Pac-12 tournament. So, but again, bringing it back to what Jed's done, he's built excitement in the program again, and he's done it by getting some big wins. The ASU one most significant to the fan base, and the fact that he's got over 23,000 fans, free or not, 23,000 fans showing up in fairly warm weather to come out and see a scrimmage is something that we could not have imagined 2 years ago. They have a long way to go, but Jed's talked about the importance of having a big home field advantage, and maybe that's an indicator that they're going to have a better one this season.
I'm going to buy the fact that it's a success because I think, as you said it, Shane, it's all relative. You look at, as you mentioned, there were games in the last few years. I mean, look at the Washington State game, for example, in November, after a big win at UCLA. It was a day game. And Arizona had maybe 35,000 people there. If that, that's probably high. It's probably closer to what we had at the spring game. So I remember
that there was a game in 2016, I think, that Khalil Tate got a spot start because all the other quarterbacks were hurt. They're playing USC. It was 100 degrees outside, and they showed a picture of the stadium right before the game started, and there was no one there. And that was before Kevin Sumlin got there. So
don't get me started on. I think Arizona football fans are too fair weather. It's college football. I mean, it's one of the greatest sports. We wait all year for it. If it's a halfway decent team, show up. Yeah. I mean, there were times in Rich Rodriguez. I remember. I think it was 2017, and they were playing Utah, and it was a September game. And albeit, that was a bowl team that ended up going to a bowl. And it was one of the lowest attended games in the last 50 years at Arizona Stadium.
Yeah.
And that was an embarrassment.
It's just not an event like the men's basketball games are, unfortunately.
But why?
Yeah. That tradition, they haven't been consistently good. They've had their moments. You'd think that, a city like Tucson, where a lot of people have lived there and families lived there for generations, that, and I still think you have that 20,000 or so, 25,000, including yourself, who will go no matter what. But it's kind of like the Cardinals back in the day at Sun Devil Stadium, because I went to a lot of those games living up here in the Valley, and there's always those diehards, regardless of how bad they were. But to fill out the rest of those seats, you have to win. And Arizona's getting there. And I think, the attendance we saw at the Territorial Cup game last year was impressive, and some of the other games. Hopefully they get at least a couple more sellouts this season. But it's just not an event like the men's basketball games are. No matter how Jed tries to turn it into one through, other fun festivities, the only thing that's going to sell out that stadium is victories.
I think it actually, and you know what, Shane, I think it is an event. I mean, at some point we'll have Jeff Dean on again, and I want to ask him about the difference. Basketball, I think it's just basketball's a name brand and football's not.
Yeah.
And arguably, I mean, the football team is very entertaining to watch.
Yeah. Well, they got the DJ you love too, right?
That's the one reason I wouldn't show up. I tried to forget about that. It's been a few months.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, you think about it, Arizona football had an amazing slate of games. Oregon, USC last year. They were coming off a win against UCLA, who was in the top 10. And then you have that atmosphere. Against ASU was pretty good, but I mean, I
even thought the ASU crowd was a little quiet. I think like it wasn't rocking like it was, say, in 2014.
Well, because you don't have the students there. And that's why
you never have the students there. I mean, and sometimes there are a decent amount of students who still show up to those games. And even in 2014, it's played after Thanksgiving. The place went crazy. Like Scooby Wright told us, his strip sack that led to a touchdown, the first possession of the game, the crowd went crazy. It was shaking in the press box. So it can get to that level. It just hasn't been there for a while.
150th show. I'm bringing this up again. Controversial take. We'll leave it at this. That game, ASU, Arizona, should not be on Thanksgiving weekend. It should be on both sides when the students can be there. I'm just saying. I know you disagree with me.
That's the only good reason I would say to do it that way. By the way, before we end this segment, I just want to mention a couple of guys who I thought stood out at the spring game.
Yeah.
Noah Fafita, who he looks like he could definitely be the heir apparent to Jaden DeLaura. And if DeLaura gets hurt or is ineffective, God forbid, I think that Fafita could actually come in and do a decent job. So I'm confident enough in that based on it's a spring game. I know, but he looked the part anyway. And then Speedy Luke, I'm excited about. They have a great backfield. They got Michael Wiley coming back. Jonah Coleman looks like he's going to be a bigger stud next season. You throw in Speedy, who can run and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. I'm excited about those two guys. Not Fafita, not necessarily next season, but going forward after the season possibly, and then Speedy for the season. I'm very excited about.
Boy, if they use Speedy correctly, though, Shane, I mean that's the key. You have to use Speedy correctly. If so, I will fully agree with you. All right, let's talk to somebody who was there. We'll see how much of it he remembers of being there. But Chris Gronkowski, one of the captains of the spring game and the founder of Ice Shaker, coming up next here on Wildcat Country.
What's up, Wildcat Country? It's Robbie G, baby, and I am gearing up for a big year with Coach Jed Fish and excited to see what the Arizona Wildcats do this football season. And just like the football team, we stepped up our program as well with the official licensed U of A Ice Shaker, baby. Check it out and get it at fanatics.com. Bear down, Arizona. Let's go.
Shane, for 150th show, who better to join us than one of the Arizona football greats? Oh, wait, he was also one of the coaches for the Arizona football spring game, which unfortunately you and I couldn't be there. And he's also one of the great sponsors of this show, the founder of Ice Shaker, Chris Gronkowski. Chris, great to have you. I want to get into the whole team and everything, but I got to ask you, we saw an interview with your brother, Rob, at the spring game saying that the losing coach had to drink at least 15 bottles of water. Did that happen, and how do you feel right now, a few days after the fact?
Yeah, it happened. We got very hydrated the day of. For some reason, we felt very dehydrated the next day. I'm not sure why, but it was a good challenge, and it brought back some good college days as well. And we made our laps, man. Like we started at the Greek, right outside the stadium. It was water only there. We played some flip cup with water only, and we just kept it going. So, man, it was a good time. That's for sure.
Is the water challenge is that a Gronkowski tradition, or?
That's only when you're in Arizona and you want to get extra hydrated for game day.
All right. Well, let's move past that. Tell me about your overall experience at Arizona Stadium, because I saw you post some Instagram stories just about how much the stadium has changed and the facilities. Just what are your big takeaways just from your experience in Tucson?
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I've been back, so I've seen kind of the add-on in the end zone. First time it was really impressive. This time it was like a whole new stadium. I walked into that front entrance and that tunnel where the guys walk out, and it's all decked out now. So that was the first thing. I'm like, man, this is sweet. From there, I walked into the locker room where these guys have like their own picture over their locker that's all lit up. Like their actual like seats now are all decked out. Like it's next level. So I've never seen that anywhere. Not in the pros, never at any other college stadium. That's brand new. So that was next level, man. Like that's cool. Like you're taking a picture the second you walk in if you're on the team and you're showing everyone that. So huge props on the actual locker room. And that was cool. Definitely a cool experience. And then weight room, you walk in the weight room. We didn't have our own weight room. It was split between every single team. Now they got their own decked out weight room just for the football team. So we went in there, we threw it back, we got the sleds on. They had this other machine called the 1080 where it actually measures your speed coming out. So I did that against Rob. I whooped him in that. I did the sleds against him, whooped him in that. And then went outside and we kind of did some old school like ball throws. I ran the stadium stairs just to bring back good memories, and it's high. It's higher than it looks. That's for sure.
So the only thing you didn't whoop them in was the game itself, then, huh?
Oh, whooped them in the game too. Whooped them in the game. So blue team took it down. I think he got a little distracted by the student section. He's throwing a lot of water balloons, water squirt guns, all that. So I was on the other side, protected against all that mayhem, and that's how you take the W.
All right, and it was you and Chris McAllister, right? Were you guys paired up? Yeah.
Yeah, so I was with Chris. He took it a lot more serious than I did. He was in there. I think he was actually calling plays. My job was to visit the Sands Club and make sure everyone up there was also, having a good time at the game. And that was a good time up there as well.
Boy, it sounds like you didn't have enough fun this weekend. What a shame. In all seriousness, what do you think of the talent on the team right now? I mean, just from what you've seen in previous years, do we have a lot to look forward to, I guess, as football fans?
I mean, the big thing was, everyone knew we had an offense. So going into that spring game, it was good to actually see the defense show up. I thought it was just going to be a scoring fest. So, it wasn't necessarily like that. So that was good to see. Man, Jed himself is just, man, he's a game changer. That guy's all in. I tell people this all the time. Like, he started hitting me up, when he first got there. And, I'm sitting there like no coach has ever hit me up. I'm sitting there like I know what he's doing. He's trying to get Rob here. He's trying to get Rob involved, all that as well. But, it continues. He still hits me up. He hits me up after the games. He hits me up when I get back, see how I'm doing. And you also then, when I got there for the first time a couple of years ago, my other teammates were there too. And I was like, hey, how much do you guys come back? And their answer was, never. This is my first time back. And it was my first time back as well. So, he's really digging in deep, doing everything he can to build that culture again. And it's working. It's kind of like you said, Shane, you saw all the posts on my social media. What's happening now is people are reaching out to me saying, hey, my kid wants to play at Arizona. Can you send the film to them? Hey, here's my marketing, one of my marketing agents from back in the day. Hey, my guy now, he's at the University of Kentucky. He wants to transfer to Arizona. Who do I talk to?
Wow.
You're starting to get all that just by getting these former players to come back in, show them around, let them have a good time, show them what's new, show them what's exciting. And they're going to start posting and they're going to start talking. And,
I want to just, sorry, Eric, I know it's your turn, but I just got to ask, why do you think it took so long for a head coach like Jedd Fisch to get it and invite not just the big names back, but so many, dozens, hundreds of alumni who didn't have that relationship with several coaching staffs before them?
I mean, you don't see that as a coach. Your job is to go in there and coach players. A lot of people miss out on community. It's the same thing with business. The businesses that are really strong, they build great communities, and everyone kind of just feeds off of each other, and it builds a lot of excitement. So Jed gets it. It is hard to see that because you are so focused on one thing, which is coaching your players to be the best they can be. But overall, man, that's not the game anymore in college. The game now is you also have to be the coolest school ever, and you got to get guys that actually want to go there because they're excited about going there, and you got to want them to stay as well. Like now you have good players that are going to get pulled from your team, and they're going to want to go to bigger programs, and there's NIL deals being thrown all over the place. So you got to keep them there. There's one way to keep them there. It's the same way that Rob and I ended up at Arizona. We thought it was a cool place to be. There was a good time. The coaches, when we got there, they let us whip the golf cart. Rob jumped over the garden, popped a wheelie in it, and the coaches let us sit in the front 2 seats, and they sat on the back. And we're like, man, this is great. Just having a good time. Showed up at a couple pool parties, and that's what it is, man. These are kids. These are kids that are also looking to have a good time. If you show them a good time, you give them a reason to stay, they're going to stay.
Chris, talk about the family atmosphere of just when you go back. Did you really kind of feel like it was like a reunion of sorts? And did you feel like the coaching staff kind of promotes that, hey, we're all one big happy family, whether current players, past players, etc.?
Yeah, for sure. That's Jed. Really digging in deep. He has he has the whole staff reaching out to the players, and I don't know how many guys were there. I think there's over 200 players that were there. There was guys that I didn't even know played on the team or were part of the organization that were there that I met for the first time. So yeah, absolutely. And then players too. You walk in that locker room, all the players, they're pumped to see us there as well. They're slapping us up. They're saying what's up. So yeah, man, great atmosphere as a player, as a former player as well.
Chris, I know you're probably as much an ambassador that day as you were a coach, but just in your interaction with the team, are there any particular position groups that really stood out to you?
Man, I'll tell you what, like both the quarterbacks were slinging. I got out there and I know we had a good starting quarterback, but I didn't know we had a backup that could sling like that as well. Some good receivers making big plays as well. As much as I was watching the game, I also wasn't watching the game either. But yeah, those are kind of the big standouts to me that I saw right away. Some receivers on both sides of the ball making great plays.
When you and Rob were there, the program really was at a tipping point where it was starting to finally turn a corner after years of futility, frankly. And I feel like this program was right about there as well. They won 5 games last year. The prediction this year from a lot of people is they're going to reach a bowl game at the very least. Can you talk about just the importance and the excitement of being part of a program that you were part of that group that turned it around and made Arizona football relevant again?
Yeah, man, that's an exciting feeling. I mean, for me, it's always been that underdog mentality. You go out there, you have nothing to lose, everything to prove. So, for me, 2-star recruit coming out, a lot of these guys are as well. Not highly recruited. They're going to get an opportunity to come in and start and play and really prove themselves. So. It's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to take a team that hasn't won a bowl game. In our case, I've been to a bowl game in 10 years, get to a bowl game, and then beat a team that was ranked, I think, top 13 at that time. So it's those memories that you don't realize how cool they are at the time, but then looking back on it, you're like, man, that was it.
From a fan's perspective, how important was that win over ASU? Because I know getting over the hump in 2008, you had to beat ASU to get to the Las Vegas Bowl, and the bowl game wasn't on the line last year, but I feel like in terms of fan support, that was the biggest win of the year.
Always is, man. When I was there, I mean, you were born and bred to absolutely hate ASU. I mean, they would bring in the former players. I don't know if they still do it or not, but these guys would come in just bringing absolute heat, man. And by the time you got into that game, like, you hated that team. Like, you were ready to go. It was an all-out brawl. So I never lost to ASU, so I don't know what that's like. So it's a huge game, though. Absolutely huge. And it is. I mean, that builds all the momentum. You have the best season and you lose to them, it kind of takes that momentum away. So massive win, always is, every single year. And that's just something to build on.
I'm not sure if we've ever asked you this before in the times we've had you on. Did you ever have any negative experiences with ASU fans, either in the stadium or elsewhere, where they would throw something at you or taunt you or anything like that?
I did not, man. Like, for the most part, from what I can remember, at least, no throwing. I mean, of course, you're going to get the boos and stuff like that, but I mean, that's part of the game for sure. I don't remember anything being thrown at us or anything like real wild or anything like that.
Yeah, we had some other players that told us they got, I think it was candy bars that got chucked on them at one point at Sun Devil Stadium. Shane, you would know, obviously.
There used to be this entrance that Sun Devil Stadium had before they renovated, like where fans could line up at this fence and throw stuff. So I'm glad you didn't have that experience, though.
Yeah, maybe I just enjoyed it. I don't know.
Hey, maybe you ate the candy bar. You just caught it. Hey, so as far as spring games go, when you had them in school, like, I mean, I can't imagine, and I really don't remember, like, what the atmosphere was like back then, but there probably weren't more than a few thousand people. Just explain just the difference from what you remember of a spring game to what you saw on Saturday.
Yeah, there's a huge difference. First off, yeah, there was no water balloons. There was no squirt guns either.
No super soakers.
Yeah, like just fun atmosphere. A lot more people showing up, a lot more people excited. We actually got there, got off the plane at about 9 a.m., went right to the stadium, and there's already people lining up the tailgate. We did a full workout, ran the stadium, left to go get changed at like noon, and it was already it was jammed. It was packed. So just cool to see, at 9 a.m. you see people already tailgating, lining up for a spring game at Arizona. That's big time. So really, really cool to see. Completely different atmosphere from when we played. But when I played, you also really didn't focus on the fans as much. So it was all about, at least for me, trying to earn some playing time.
Yeah, I remember after I went to a spring game in, it must have been 2008, and it was a lot lower key. You got to go on the field afterward and get some autographs. I got your brother's autograph and Nick Foles and a couple other guys, but a little bit different than it wasn't quite like the event.
Wait, you didn't get Chris's autograph? What's up with that?
I don't remember seeing Chris. I saw Rob before he became
scoring touchdowns.
Yeah.
I still remember this is real. I actually reached in. I scored with my left hand. They said no touchdown. And then there was a picture in the paper the next day, me legs in the air, hitting the pylon, and it was a touchdown.
They didn't have review at the for the spring football games. You got a touchdown in the Vegas Bowl though. I remember that. That was
worth it.
Clutch. So let me ask you about. First of all, let me ask you about Ice Shaker. I know things are going well, and you got a couple different products coming out. Tell us how things are going.
Yeah, it's been good. We were the unofficial, bottle sponsor of the spring game. Had to carry it around everywhere we went. It might not have been filled with water that whole time, but it's been good, man. We came out with a new Companion, is what we're calling it. It holds a 12-ounce skinny can, so great for tailgating as well. Will keep your drink cold for up to 4 hours, which when you're tailgating, you don't really need it for that long, but it's still great when it's ice cold. We have a really cool partnership that we're going to launch in about a month with a company called Bumpbox. So we actually have a twist-on speaker that goes on the bottom of this new bottle. It's loud enough to tailgate with. It bumps. It actually twists off. So if you're golfing, something like that, you could throw it in your golf cart. So super excited about that. We're actually debuting it tomorrow at the bowl season is what it's called. So it's all the bowl commissioners go to an event, and I'll be there tomorrow showing that off. So super excited to launch that. I think that's a pretty cool tailgate and football fan product.
I know last year you dipped your toe in the water as far as NIL, and you had some U of A players as sponsors. Are you doing anything along those lines?
We haven't done much since. It's tough, man. And going back and thinking about it as a player myself, your focus isn't really on creating content. So we get them for one post, and it was kind of hard to reconnect after that and really drive home some sales. So we use it more just exposure play. It's exciting to work with the guys. It's exciting to put a little cash in their pocket, because I know how far that goes, especially in college when you're living off a couple $100 a month. So I don't know. I don't know how much we'll continue to do with it, just because it's hard to manage. It's hard to get a hold of the guys. A lot of them don't have a printer. Like getting them to sign a piece of paper is like a challenge. And 2 out of 3 of them also transferred the next season. So it's kind of frustrating. And we did other NIL deals with a couple other teams as well, and it was the same experience. We had one other guy, he transferred as well. So 3 out of 4 that we did all transferred within a year.
It's the wild, wild west right now. You look at basketball, over 20% of D1 athletes have already entered the portal. So it's crazy times. My last question for you, Chris. I know this is a little sideways, but I just got to ask, because you post some advice to entrepreneurs every so often, and one of them was, you're never going to completely be ready. Just go for it. For those who are looking to start their own business, and I know there got to be some people listening who are, what do you need to have in place, and what are some things you're going to figure out along the way?
Well, it's a great question. When I started Ice Shaker, there's pretty much nothing in place. No business plan, no marketing plan. There was absolutely nothing in place. It was pretty much an idea And a product, the one thing there was, a constant grind. I was going to work all day, every day, do whatever I could to figure out a way to make it work. And a lot of that came from just the passion for the product and the idea. It was something that I loved, which was, fitness, working out. And then I took that passion and I found a way to actually make a living off of it. So if you don't love it, you're going to give up on it way too early before you're actually successful with it. So that's my biggest piece of advice is, find something you love, start it as a side hustle. It started as, upstairs, actually in this room was where I was shipping out the first product. And then from there, once it got big enough to the point where it could support me and my family, then I jumped all in at that point. But, prove it first. You're going to think it's the best idea in the world because it's your idea. But that's not always the case. So you got to find a way to actually make it successful first, before you go and risk it all.
I lied, Eric. Sorry, I give one more. So you went on Shark Tank. You got the deal, I think, with Mark Cuban and Alex Rodriguez. Was that ultimately a good decision to give up a portion of your company for that investment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking back, you always say like, oh, I wish I had that back, right? But at the time, I was 6 months in. We had $80,000 in sales. It was a side hustle. Got on the show, got the deal, closed the deal, jumped to over 3 million in sales in the next 12 months. And, that's something that you just, without them, you can't do. Just that exposure, just the proof of concept is absolutely huge. And, even to this day, when I tell people, hey, Mark Cuban's a part of the company, it opens up doors immediately. I'm going to at least get a chance to present to them at that point because it legitifies the brand. So, it's done a great job of connecting us, GNC, QVC, Good Morning America, all these bigger accounts that, usually take year 4, year 5, year 6 to get into. So we jumped years ahead. We've done great. I've paid back Mark multiple times. He's still a part owner of the company as well. And then Alex came in and Rob ended up buying him out about a year and a half in. So Rob retired for the first time, bought Alex out, was going to become a big part of the company, and then unretired and went back to football. So it's been good. He's been an amazing promoter of the product. You'll see him kicking field goals on Jimmy Fallon with it that end up going viral. You'll see him at the Valspar Championship throwing it off the top balcony to a kid that then received about 3 million views on social media. So he's like the ultimate promoter of the product without even trying. It's pretty impressive. And if you see any of the pictures from the spring game, he's holding the bottle in every single photo. So can't measure really the success that brings and the amount of eyeballs, but it's impressive because the next day you just see this spike in our sales. So it works. It gets put everywhere. Those photos from that game, I'm sure are all over the AP press and all over all kinds of websites. So he's done an amazing job of just helping us promote the brand.
Different kind of Gronk spike.
Yeah, you can say that again, Shane. Chris, I have to say thank you so much for being a sponsor of Wildcat Country. But now, since it's our 150th episode, we have a giveaway. So we posted something on the Wildcat Country Twitter account. Name your favorite Arizona former football or current or former football player. I did not look at the results to see how many times you were mentioned.
At least 2/3 of the response is Chris Gronkowski by a
Okay, just want to check. So, Chris, we need you to draw a name randomly as to who is going to win our Ice Shaker giveaway for the 150th episode.
Okay. Yeah, you guys sent over all the names. I got it in the random winning generator right now, but I'm now going back on Twitter right now to see who wrote my name. So
see, and now
they might get a few more entries.
Yeah, I'm just duplicating their names right now. Here we go. No, I'm hitting it right now. The winner is Jack Skull, Schull.
All right. So congrats. We don't.
He's your biggest supporter, and I hope he voted for me.
Well, congratulations, Jack. We'll be in touch and let you know how you can get your Ice Shaker. But Chris, thank you so much for joining Shane and I. Always great to catch up with you. Congrats on all of your success at Ice Shaker and, of course, with the Arizona Spring Game. And I'm sure we will have you on sooner than later to break down more Arizona football and everything else in between.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for everything.
One gem mint PSA 10 after another. That's what so many card collectors, including including yours truly, have experienced when they submit their cards for grading through DT Sports Cards. They are an authorized PSA dealer, which means if you submit your cards through them, you'll reap all the benefits of being a PSA subscriber without actually having to subscribe. That means you can take advantage of PSA's bulk submission rate, even if you want to submit just a single card. And for just $2 a card, DT Sports Cards will give your cards a thorough review and tell you if they're likely to receive your desired grades for them. I've submitted baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and yes, even Pokemon, and have received so many PSA 10s because DT Sports Cards has helped me send in the right cards and save my money on the rest. Check them out for yourself at dtsportscards.com or on Twitter and Instagram at DT_sportscards.
Great to catch up with Chris Gronkowski. A lot of fun to chat with him about what was going on in Tucson last week. And I was sorry that I couldn't be there. You and I were there a couple years ago, Shane, and hopefully we can be there next year. Just couldn't make it last weekend, but good to get kind of a recap of sorts from Chris, just about the family atmosphere and such. Want to once again, a reminder, this segment is brought to you by DT Sports Cards. Shane, you have made a lot of money courtesy of DT Sports Cards.
I've made some, but it's more, I mean, I've maximized my profits for sure through DT Sports Cards. I like to collect as well, not necessarily just to flip cards, but I'll tell you what, though, my dad found some old cards recently, gave me some of a bunch of them, actually. Not a lot of them are going to be worth a lot, but there was a 1990 Fleer Michael Jordan in there that is probably worth like $5 raw if you just buy it raw on eBay. Sent it in to get graded. I sent it to a David DT Sports Cards first. So he can take a look at it and say if it's worth sending in or not. Because if it doesn't have a chance to get a 10, it's probably not. He said, take a chance on it. It's good to go. We don't guarantee anything, but it's good to go. I got the grade back today. It was a Gem Mint 10. That $5 card is worth about $250. So definitely check out dtsportscards.com if you like to get your cards graded by PSA.
Well, and there you have it. As I said, you're killing it with that. So good job from DT Sports Cards. Check them out. All right. So this is our 150th show. I'm going to give you guys some by the numbers in 150.
I'm excited for this. I don't know what you're going to talk about.
We have done 202 interviews on this program in 150 shows.
It's about 1.25 per episode.
We've had 95 unique guests on the program,
Pretty
five
good.
of which are recruits who never enrolled at Arizona.
Oh, no, the Wildcat Country curse. And other guys who have left since then, I'm sure.
Yes, but that's why we don't have recruits on anymore. Shane,
not unless they sign their LOI.
But Keon Gray's at Ohio State. Trayson Bourget was at Western Michigan. KJ Simpson at Colorado. Clay Millen was last at Colorado State. Keon Chambers, I have not sure where he is now, to be honest with you.
I remember at least one guy, Jermaine Wiggins Jr., he ended up transferring.
Yeah, he's at UMass. There are 6 Arizona football players from last year's roster that have transferred to UMass and Don Brown.
To play for Don Brown. That makes sense.
Yep. We've had 95 unique guests. I mentioned the 5 recruits. Who are the most common guests and how often have they been on? Can you guess the 2 most common guests that we've had on, Shane?
Matt Moreno and Jeff Dean.
Jeff Dean 15 times, Matt Moreno 13 times.
Okay.
We've had Aaron Torres, Bruce Pascoe, Matt Muehlbach, Barrett Baker have each been on 7 times. Maybe I'm missing a few, but just a few that I went and compiled.
So only those 2 guys are double digits then?
Yes.
Okay.
So we've been able to spread it around. Jeff was one of the original founders of this program. So, that's why he's on it. Matt Moreno, the professor, we learn, Jeff is the king optimist, plus he's the PA announcer for the football and basketball teams. And then Matt Moreno tells us what we need to know. We might need to have him on again soon because of this.
Well, I was going to say we might need to have Jeff on to give us some positivity based on what we've been hearing. So
just Shane, some quick thoughts on, what it means to you to do 150 episodes of this reincarnation of Wildcat Country.
What's funny is even when I started this and even now, when I started during the pandemic, I was working from home, so it wasn't quite as chaotic. But since I've been having to go back to the office for a couple different jobs, and I've changed jobs since we started this show, there are a lot of times where I'm thinking about doing the podcast, and I'm like, I got a 3-year-old or 2-year-old, whatever old he was at the time. I just kind of want to veg out and relax after I get done with work. And then, so I'm like, I kind of mixed feelings about doing the show. And then every time I come on, I get fired up talking about Arizona athletics. We have a great guest on who educates us. And I reminded weekly of why we restarted this. And you convinced me, Eric. For those who don't know, Eric texted me out of the blue and said, let me know if you want to restart up Wildcat Country. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to make that big a commitment, but that was about 3 years ago, and here we are, and hopefully we have 150 more. And appreciate everyone who's taken a chance to listen and watch. And I think we've developed a pretty good. My thing I'm most proud of, Eric, is I think we've developed a really good Rolodex of guests who can inform.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yep.
Yeah, I inform people, give people information they don't know, provide some analysis, things that are outside our realm of expertise, as much as we like to think we know everything. So that's what I'm most proud of. The fact we've had 95 different guests is great. Maybe we should do another Ice Shaker giveaway when we have our 100th different guest on. But that's the thing I'm most proud of, and I'm glad that you've been on the journey with me.
Yeah, it's been an honor. We've done 150 of these, which is crazy, but it's fun. And I talk about this often, but it's cathartic too. You know, when Arizona loses to Princeton, or when they lost last year, like
or 70-7, yeah,
or 70-7, like we're there. You know, we were broadcasting live during 70-7, and that's how Jay Johnson, now at LSU, I mean, he found us and he's like, "Oh, you guys are great." I mean,
we've had some good times too. We we're playing the Territorial Cup, like the one we did after that when the basketball team won in Maui, and then the football team won the Territorial Cup. We have had a lot of chances for celebrations too. The women's basketball team going on their run to the championship game, College World Series, both men's and women's, to talk about. So we've had, we'd like to think about all the bad things that have happened. I think that's human nature, but there's been a lot of good in the last 150 episodes as well.
Well, we broke it down for episode 100 last year, but I would say the signature guest that we had on in the last 50 episodes was Bill Walton, and that was something.
Oh,
and I mean, maybe we'll do it again next year. But we've had, we had Steve Spurrier on before episode 100, and we had Walton on between episode, 100 and 150. So you never know who's going to be on Wildcat Country. Credit to Shane Dale for coming up with quite the Rolodex there. You got
your CBS gig now too, which is helping us get with connections. But I'll tell you, I still think one of my favorite guests, just because of how freaking random it was Wilton Spate, who played for Jed Fish at Michigan and told us what to expect from Jed before he took over as the head coach at Arizona. So I just love that we're able to sort of go outside the box and get that kind of stuff.
And most importantly, I want to thank you guys out there for listening. Our listenership is consistent and continues to grow, and we appreciate that. Sort of the trolls come in during football season. That's a lot of fun. The Mississippi State ones that we had last year, some UCLA ones, but we always
boost our numbers. Please boost our numbers whenever you can.
You know what? We appreciate our sponsors, along the way, DT Sports Cards, Ice Shaker, Backcourt Marketing when they were with us. We appreciate them. But you guys out there for listening. This is why we do it. We have a lot of fun, and let's keep it going. As Shane said, 150 more. Hell, why not 350 more? Let's get to 500, and then we'll reevaluate it from there. But in all seriousness, hopefully there's a lot to look forward to, and hopefully an Arizona Bowl game and maybe a Final Four. But we'll see what the roster looks like next year. All right, let's talk a little positivity with the football team. So coming out of this spring game, they landed a transfer today from Indiana, defensive line transfer. He started all 12 games last year. I'm going to blow up this name because it's Sio Nofo Gatoto, something like that. Don't ask me to say that 5 times fast.
Just know that Jeff is going to have to say his name over and over next season.
I mean, this Arizona has struggled on the defensive line for years. Yeah. I mean, going back to when Rich Rod was there, he never recruited big enough linemen.
It was Brooks Reed, Ricky Elmore. That was the last time they really had a lot of great guys up front who could. I mean, whether it was D linemen or linebackers. Like last time they actually had like a defensive unit that was feared at least a little bit. You have to go back a good 15 years. I mean, Scooby was great, but he was sort of a one-man show.
So, but he's also a linebacker. He wasn't on the defensive line.
Right.
Now you've got Bill Norton from Georgia. You've got Sio from Indiana. You've got, Justin Flo's going to play, he might play some up front. This is a team that is going to be light years. It should be light years better on defense.
And hopefully Dwayne Aquina makes a difference as well. Like Barrett Baker told us last week.
Yeah. All right. So I want to talk about this as well, Shane. Big midweek game that happened on Wednesday, I believe it was. So Arizona played Arizona State, who swept them in Tempe, I believe last month, and Arizona beat them 20-0.
20-0. They're big. Their most lopsided win over ASU since World War II.
Are you buying Chip Hale again? I'm not, but are you buying Chip Hale?
I never sold him Completely. Look, and this leads me into my point. As impressive as the 20 runs scored was, I'm even happier about the 0 runs allowed. Like like softball, which I know we're going to talk about shortly. The pitching is the problem with this program. It has been since Chip Hale came. Cam Walty he's put together 2 straight great starts without allowing a run, including 7 innings against an ASU team that had played its way into the top 25. Let's not forget they were a top 25 team. Not going to be after this week, but they were. The bullpen didn't allow a hit against ASU. Look, they keep that up. Look, it's unlikely, but they could. There's still a path to getting into the postseason. They're number 58.
How?
They're number 58 in RPI. They'll have a chance to move up with the rest of the Pac-12 and Pac-12 play against some other RPI top 50 teams. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's still possible. And look, one win in baseball isn't as impressive or as significant as one in football or even basketball, just because of the sheer number of games played in baseball. But this seems to be part of a bigger trend. They've won 5 of their last 7 games, so if they keep it up, you never know.
Is this the equivalent to 70-7 in football, albeit far less people care about it?
Oh yeah. It was a butt kicking. Yeah. It's hard to, it's really an apples to oranges in terms of, the amount of games played versus the interest in the sport. But yeah, it was satisfying. I'm sure for Chip Hale, who, we had on the podcast, you weren't available for that episode, but I talked to Chip when he got hired, and he talked about how big the rivalry was when he was playing. Both teams were very good back then, and how personal it is to him. And I'm sure he enjoyed that win as much as anyone, probably more.
I hope, Chip Hale, if you're listening, which you probably aren't, I hope you prove me wrong, and I hope I can apologize to you for doubting you and your what you've done at Arizona. I'm still not buying yet. The other one, Shane, that I just want to bring up before the show ends, and I don't mean it to end it on a downer. Arizona softball is now 4-13 this season against teams that are ranked when they play. They got swept by Stanford, and they got swept by UCLA last weekend. Yeah, this is a problem.
Yeah, they beat they beat GCU in Phoenix. That was nice, but GCU is not in the same category. Look, Arizona's tied for first in the Pac-12 in batting average. They're number 1 in total bases, number 1 in slugging, number 2 in home runs. Their bats have gone cold at times, but overall offense is not the problem. They are next to last in the Pac-12 in ERA. That's the problem. Just like in the baseball side, this program just doesn't bring in cream of the crop pitchers like it used to. From Nancy Evans to Jenny Finch, Taryn Moat, Alicia Hollowell, who I randomly had a class with at U of A. For whatever reason, they're just not getting those pitchers anymore, and that goes before Caitlin Lowe's time. If Arizona's going to return to national prominence and become a top 10 program every year, that needs to change. It's as big as getting a star quarterback in college football. If you don't have one, you're probably not going to go very far unless you have amazing rest of your team. You're not going to go very far. So until Arizona builds up that pitching staff again, Devin Netz is good. She should not be the number 1 pitcher on this team. She's not going to be the number 1 pitcher on a program that's going to contend for a national title.
Well said, Shane. I'm not selling Caitlin Lowe because of what she did in the postseason last year.
No,
but I'm not happy either. I'll just say that. Well, I want to thank Chris Gronkowski for joining us. I want to thank Shane Dale. 150 episodes. Here's to many more. We've had a blast, and let's hope there are good things on the horizon. Maybe a conference change one of these days. We'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. So for Shane Dale, I'm Eric Cohen. Thanks for listening. And as always, bear down.